joined by Cameron Hope, General Manager of the Victoria Royals. Cam, the 2020 WHL Bantam Draft is in the books now, and you look back on everything that went on through the course of the draft. How do you feel things went for your club?
I thought the whole draft went really well. We were in a very unusual position this year. We had a pretty high pick, picking number 9 overall, but then not another pick until the 3rd round. So, we really had to do our homework. We had to really have a very confident list, I guess you could say. We worked really hard on it. And at the end of the day, we got 8 players, all of whom were pretty high on our list. So we're really excited about how it went.
The first player you're able to get is Austin Zemlak. You take him 9th overall. What is it about his game that you really like?
There's very little that we don't like about his game. And it's strange. This is the 3rd year in a row that we've used a first-round pick to take a defenseman. And it was just because we couldn't pass up on Austin Zemlak. He really does it all. Terrific defender, can play physical, does everything at a super high pace, thinks the game fast. He's just one of those guys that has terrific pro written all over him when the NHL draft comes around for him in a few years.
Now, we had heard coming in that this was a defense-heavy draft, and Austin was the 3rd defenseman taken, and there were 4 defensemen that went in the top 10. So, as you were watching things play out ahead of you, was there a moment, or when did you know that, Austin was going to be your guy and you were going to get that chance?
Yeah, we didn't know, and as you can imagine, we're not in person this year at the draft, so we're on a video conference with all the different scouts. And we were getting pretty excited because, we had Austin pretty high on our own list. And after about the 5th pick, we were thinking, well, if things go according to what we think in terms of what other teams might do, we may have a chance at Austin. So, every pick that went off the board, all terrific players. But when he was still available at number 9, I can't say all the great words that were exchanged on our video call.
Well, good to hear that you're excited about that. I know you're obviously excited about the rest of the work you're able to do throughout the later rounds of the draft. So, what can you tell us about that? And, speak maybe a little bit to the depth that you're able to acquire through the rest of the rounds in the draft.
Yeah, it was really good. Every general manager will tell you the same thing. They got a bunch of players later in the draft that were really high on their list, that fell to them. That is really true in this draft. And I think that may be true across the board. This was a very unusual situation, not having the Alberta Cup and the BC Cup and some of the other showcases and playoffs. And so, it was a really unusual draft in terms of names that were coming and being picked that, perhaps were on different places in teams' lists. So, as it went down and we got players, like Anthony Wilson and Nate Miskey and Reggie Newman and Justin Kipke. These are all guys that we had on our list, in the top few rounds. So, and a nice cross-section of guys, some forwards, some defensemen, a goalie, and Logan Cunningham. It's just one of those ones where if you'd have told me that this was what it would look like at the start of the day, I would have been pretty happy.
So, you're pretty happy now. What's next for you and your hockey operations staff? Obviously, this is one day on the calendar that comes following a full year's worth of work, but it doesn't end here. What's next for you and your team?
Yeah, the same as with most clubs. We really have to buckle down now and start planning for camp. With what's going on, we don't know exactly, when that's going to be, but it doesn't mean you don't have to prepare the same way. And camp invitations and putting together all of those things are important. We have some work to do in the off season besides just worrying about camp and rookies and 04s and 05s coming and trying out. Like every club, we've peeled off some players off of our roster. So we've got a little work to do there. But, other than that, I just hope we all get through this thing so we can get back on the ice. That's the most important thing.
I hear you. It'd definitely be great to be playing hockey again sooner than later. So on that note, I'll ask you one last question before we let you go. But, obviously every year the Bantam Draft, it's a big day for all the players involved. It's a big day for all the families involved. And it's a big day for all the clubs involved. So, given all of the drafts that you've been through, what sort of advice or positive message do you have to share with the kids who have come through the draft today so that they can be prepared moving forward?
I think the best thing you can say, both the players who were drafted and players that weren't drafted, this is just one step along the way. And it's an exciting day for those who heard their names called, but for those that didn't, as everybody knows, at least a third, sometimes more than that, of every Western Hockey League roster contains players that were not drafted, players that are going to show up at training camps in the fall, undrafted, who are going to find their way into our league and into the National Hockey League. So it's just one step. Enjoy the day if you were drafted. Be happy about it. Those of you that were drafted by the Victoria Royals, get used to wearing blue. But except for that, when we get back to playing hockey again, it's all about what you do on the ice.